what if I was in Naruto? So basically, when the trio thingy arrives, and Christian's about to activate the Sharingan, Ino says, well, actually no, Christian doesn't activate, he wouldn't want to. Sakura would go for a punch, Ino would go in front, blocking it, saying, she says, what are you doing, Ino pig? She says, shut up, Sakura, it's our turn to do it. It's Ino Shika Hina Cho's turn. She does mind transfer jutsu, and they do their Ino Shika Hina Cho, and then they destroy that team, and then they snatch the bells. Who says, wow, Ino Shika Hina Cho is actually pretty good. Then they'd go all the way in the ranks. I'm kidding. So they basically get the scroll and they'd go in. He says, alright, you guys did it. Good. Christian says, wait a minute. Whoa. I am the dumbest person in the world. They go, how are you dumb? Ino says, don't call yourself dumb. He says, I could have body flickered, stole someone's scroll, then body flickered us straight to the end. They say, what's body flicker? Most of them, except for Sasuke. He says, it's basically a teleportation technique. Watch. And then he disappears. They say, where'd he go? And then they just walk through. They see him. He says, Sakura says, you could have used that the entire time? He says, look, I forgot. I don't even know. I forgot that I could even use that technique. Plus, it takes so much chakra up and it takes a lot of people. It'll literally replenish my chakra all the way if I teleport all kinds of people. That's probably another reason why it would be pretty dumb to use it. He goes, so moving on to the matches. It's Christian versus Neji. All of Team 7 roots for Christian. They go. And the rest vote for Neji. Root for Neji. He says, the weak Uchiha clan that was massacred. Sasuke's head is already twitching, going, I'm gonna kill this guy if Christian loses. He goes, you guys are so weak. I bet you he slaughtered the clan because they were all weaklings, unlike the Hyuga clan. Then he goes for an 8 Trigun 64 pumps, and Christian Dodge seemingly gets hit by all of them. He goes, ugh. They say, no! They realize that he can still walk around. Then he goes, he says, I don't know your gibberish. He says, let me translate to you, buddy. He says, let me, he translated going, he goes, what do you mean? He goes, then he appears behind Neji going, he says, that's not my destiny. My destiny was for me to be normal. Then he appears in front of Neji, and then he goes, then he takes them, then he says, then he puts them both in a wood prison, then he goes, then he just goes, which sends him flying. And that obviously don't teach Neji no lesson. He does that, but it doesn't do a lot. He says, you think that's gonna intimidate me? He says, then this will, Neji. Everyone is frightened by this. Even Itachi was once. He goes, let me put you back together and take you apart all over again. Everyone on the stage is frightened. Even Gaara is. He goes, huh? They're all shocked about the sudden change of his voice and the words. Then he goes, He goes, then the whole void in there, then the whole stadium turns black. Then all they see is glaring red eyes. He activated his Sharingan, then he goes,
I assure you, I am very real.
Then he goes,
This time, there is more than illusions to fear.
Then with anger on his face he goes,
We know who our friends are, but you are not one of them.
then he goes, with that intimidating speech, Neji is scared down to the bone. He goes, then he goes, then with one shot, he goes, maybe if I copy Sasuke but made it more better. He goes, ah! Kicking Rock Lee in the air like Sasuke did. Sasuke says, hopefully he doesn't steal my technique. He goes left to right, kicking him up in the air, going, ha ha ha! He says, Cheetah Speed Barrage! He said, Sasuke got Lion Barrage. Christian's got Cheetah's Barrage, Tiger's Barrage. He goes, ah! With a giant strike, he goes, ah! And punches Neji down, saying, Tiger Force! He calls it Tiger Force and sends him down. He goes, ah! Making Neji hit the ground. And then he loses. But then he's finished off with a spinning kick to the ground like what Sasuke does with his Lion's Barrage. He goes, He says, what was that new technique? Christian says, that was Tiger's Barrage. You got lions, I got tigers. Lions and tigers and bears. Then Kakashi would take Sasuke to the ceiling place. Christian says, take me with you. He goes, okay, I'll be right back. When they did the sealing process, Orochimaru shows up. Then Christian, immediately with anger on his face, with rage, goes, Orochimaru goes, I'm not here for you. I'm here for Sasuke. What? Mom! Can you get Dad his medicine? She said in a minute. He goes, then stares at Orochimaru going,
Let me put you back together. You change your heart all over again.
oof. Shh, guys, don't worry. This will be over in a second. I'll be able to resume this in a second. Then Orochimaru starts to walk towards Sasuke and them. Kakashi with the Raikiri. He says, "Don't worry, I'm just going to try and steal him." When he says, "You take one more step and I'll make you regret it," he goes, "What are you gonna do?" Then walks forward. All he hears is, "What the? Damn it." Basically, he said, when Orochimaru steps 1 foot, he goes, and he uses a scream to, like, he goes, "What the? That kid can do that?" God, she says, "What the heck?" Then he walks forward again, and then Christian goes. He says, Kashi says in his head, "What is this kid? What is this kid? He literally is doing weird noises." Then he goes and jumps in front of Orochimaru going, Orochimaru still keeps on walking forward. Kishin runs back and stands in front of Sasuke with a Shisui sword right in front of him, going. He says, "How sweet, protecting him with your life you are." Then with a death look, saying, "Would he do the same for you?" Then he goes to grab Sasuke, then Christian kicks him in the face, going, and he's still shaking. Then Orochimaru says, "Toodaloo," and then just walks away. Then with one last word he says, then he looks at Orochimaru with such anger and fury, going, then he goes,
"There is nothing more relaxing than sitting in my favorite spot on the couch and playing some Candy Crush
Saga." Kashi goes, "What the?" No, I'm kidding. He yells, then he says,
"Let me put you back together, then take you apart all over again."
He goes, Orochimaru stops in his tracks. Then he goes,
"Let's see how many times you can be pulled apart."
Then Orochimaru definitely gets out of there. Then Christian faints, passes out because of how much shock he was in. Then Sasuke and Christian had their heads, like, let's just say that they're both on different sides. They're both knocked out. Then Kakashi takes Christian back to the exam thingy and puts him against a wall. And then he heads back with Sasuke to make sure he's fully okay. It left a clone with the clone that brought Christian, the real Kakashi, watching him. Once the clone officially delivered Christian, he took Sasuke to his house where Orochimaru doesn't know. He takes him there and then he watches the matches. The clone disappears. And Naruto whispers, "Hey, are you okay?" When he opens his eyes, Naruto is right in his face. He goes, "Ah!" and punches Naruto that he falls into the stadium. He goes, "Ah!" He goes, "What was that for?" He says, "You were right in my face, and that scared me because I just woke up. After being almost given a death stare by maybe some Snake Boy." When Hiruzen says, "Snake Boy, Orochimaru," Anko also, well actually no, Anko's gone. Ino says, you saw that snake guy again? He says, yep. Then something happens to me. I blacked out for a second, then I came back. Then I blacked out again, and then again. Kakashi walks up to the Hokage, because he had a little recording piece to see what Christian was saying, and recorded what he was saying. When all the matches are finished, he goes to the Hokage office and shows him the footage. He goes, that was he says, I wonder how this boy can use that kind of a voice. He says, I must call him in. He calls him in and he says, please, I'd like you to demonstrate your voice that you showed. He goes, okay.
Let me put you back together, then take you apart all over again.
He goes, if we studied, and he says, did Orochimaru react to it? He goes, yes, he did react. He froze in his tracks for a sec. Then he says he might be after Sasuke, 'cause that's why he was there. Then Christian goes, angrily, then rushes out. Then rushes back home. He says, whoa, wait. He goes, and on his way he rushes past Naruto. Naruto sees that he's got angry eyes. And then he goes, then when he gets there, he kicks down the door saying, Sasuke! He goes, are you alright? He sees 3 Shaolin Shinobi grabbing Sasuke. Then he kicks them in the face, sending them all back into a wall. He goes, with his eyes and head twitching, he goes, and then he goes, then they go for a strike on him, and then he goes, then they're dead. Sasuke wakes up a couple of minutes later seeing bodies on the floor. Then Sasuke gets a reminder of the Uchiha massacre. He goes, then Sasuke screams. He goes, ah! And Sasuke is traumatized. Christian says, are you alright? He goes, there's bodies in the room. He says, yeah, Sound Ninja, they tried to kidnap you. I killed them all. He says, and you didn't bother removing them? He says, look, I was in a rage. I was mad. 'Cause little Snake, Mr. Snake Boy, comes and tries to steal you while Kakashi's trying to steal you up. Seeing up that damn ass curse mark. So now, I went, and then, once I heard that you were his target, I got mad and ran home, and then I saw Sound Ninja trying to take you, so I killed them. And didn't have enough energy because of the Sharingan drain, plus me running at top speed to try and get home. So you can thank me for that. He says, also Kakashi wants to meet with us. He says, okay. They go to the place, the spot that they did for their introduction. He says that he wants to train the 2 of them to get their Sharingan better, and also since they're both training under Kakashi, the reason why he wants to train Christian and not just Sasuke, because if Sasuke goes rogue, he always has someone to enlighten him back into the light. And that's him. He's always bright and happy. Except for the times that he gets really mad and scary. Sasuke and Christian have a funny memory. He says, do you guys remember having the worst rage ever? He says, the angriest part built up rage ever that you might have destroyed or hurt someone. Christian says, Christian and Sasuke both nod. He says, what was it? Christian says, well, when I was like 2 years before the Uchiha massacre, I was playing toys with Sasuke, and Itachi wanted to join in on us, so then when he touched it, for some reason, it ripped. And I got so mad that I awakened the Sharingan and blasted him through a wall. They had to hold me back for a while before I absolutely annihilated Itachi. He says, and that was my biggest and maddest moment. Until my mom, Mikito, finally sewed it up. He goes, okay. He goes, yeah, speech is my recital. I think it's very vital. He says, oh yeah. He says, do you have any days where you're bad? He also asked if they have any days where he's really mad. Like, is there any signs of him showing that he's mad? Because he says, you guys never talk to anyone anyway, so we don't really know if you're mad or not. Christian says, well, if my hair is like all messy, then it's definitely because I'm mad. Because I don't miss a day unless I'm mad. He goes, alright, that gives a reason. Sasuke says, look, I don't even got a reason. It's just if, like... He says, well, if you're not talking to Christian, then it's obviously a reason. Because, like, you two always talk. He says, yeah, but most of our talks are about how we're gonna beat Itachi. That's most of our talks, literally, not even joking. He goes, wow, you two are really caught up in revenge. They say, yep. He says, revenge is in the path. Sasuke says, well, how about this? What if I killed someone that you loved? Christian says, whoa, Sasuke. You can already tell that Kakashi looks like he had crippling depression before. Sasuke goes, geez. He says, look at the man. His eyes look like he hasn't slept in days. That's probably why he's late. He sleeps late because he's tired because he hasn't slept because he's been traumatized so many times. I mean, even though our entire family died, so did his. Like, literally, you don't see his parents everywhere. You don't see anyone you know. I mean, yeah, he says, one of my teammates was an Uchiha, but he didn't die from the massacre. He died for something earlier. He goes, shh. And also, Itachi said there's some masked man that killed one of his teammates. He says, and that's when he awakened his Sharingan? He goes, He goes, look, whatever. Like, can we just get on the training? He goes, alright. He teaches them Chidori, how to get faster. Much faster, because, yeah. But for some reason, Christian's got in-depth power. I mean, when he trains, his training is much more efficient than Sasuke for some reason. They train at the exact same pace, exact same rate, but he's somehow progressing faster. Sasuke doesn't understand it. Christian doesn't even understand this himself. He's like, me and Sasuke are training at the exact same rate. Why am I getting stronger than he is? He says, Sasuke, are you slacking off? He goes, no, I haven't been slacking off. He says, Christian punches him in the face. He goes, ow, what was that? He says, just seeing if you were a shadow clone. Because if you were a shadow clone, then obviously you wouldn't do that. He says, why would I be a clone? He says, I don't know, maybe because you were slacking. I don't know. He says, I mean, why do you think I'm progressing at a faster rate? He says, Sasuke, run around this track 20 times, and we'll see who's faster. He says, no chakra or jutsu allowing. Sasuke runs across it, and it takes him about 15 minutes to clear the entire thing. He says, now it's Christian's turn. He goes, no! And he gets it about 10 minutes. He goes, see? You have been slacking! He asks Kakashi, what's his pass score? He says his pass score was about 30 seconds, and your pass score was about 35 seconds. He goes, oh. He goes, so that means I must have just improved more. He goes, whatever. Kakashi says, alright, at the end of the month, they both get new outfits. They both get the same outfit. Christian says, then on the day the shooting exams, Christian yells in the bathroom. He goes, ah! Sasuke says, what's wrong? He says, I'm all out of gel. That means my hair can't go down. Now my hair's all, Sasuke says, to think about it, I've never seen your hair go up. He says, you'll see in the middle of the day. Christian messes up his hair. He says, there you go, you like it? He goes, that looks a lot better than the flat hair. He says, yes, but it's much hotter like this. Not in the weird way hot, like literally like in the sun it gets really hot. It gets very, 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 very hot out there. He says, whatever. Also, why does the sun in the Leaf Village look so different from the sun in the actual world? This just looks like you scoot it. Okay, I'm kidding. So when it's time for their match, it's Christian versus Gara. Christian goes, here goes nothing. Most of the people think that the Sand Kid is probably gonna win. Cause he's a new Chi. So what if he's a new Chi? Yeah, he's not even the strongest, is what they think. When it starts off, he goes, this guy seems good already. Alright, immediately sand would come. Christian says, lightning shuriken. Throwing shuriken, cutting right through the sand, stabbing Gar in the arm. He goes, it's my blood. He says, the match has already started and he's already got a hit. Then Christian goes, then rushes towards with his lightning kunai going, cutting through most of it. He says, how about a technique that I've learned from Kakashi Hatake? He pulls all of his kunai out and then it looks like Kakashi's Kamui thing, but it's not using Kamui. He's just using the lightning. He goes, they all pin against the sand, electrocuting through it. Then he goes, he goes, Hachidori! Then he go, and rip right through the sand, hitting Gaara, and then he goes, hitting Gaara, doing so much damage to him. He goes, that's my blood. Then with Tamari and thing trying to jump in, he gets kicked. He says, then your boy thing thinks that he's pretty good. Their sensei says, go, I'll deal with this kid. Genma jumps in front. Christian says, Genma, you might want to get back. He says, I have a plan. Then he says, amazing world. Then he looks at whatever the dude's name is, Baki, and says,
look into my eyes.
and then goes, putting Baki in a genjutsu, thinking that the plan worked and the whole village is destroyed. Then, out of nowhere, his head falls off. He goes, in the genjutsu world, it's Christian behind him saying, this was all a genjutsu, idiot. Then destroys his body, and then in real life he's also dead. He says, they say, Baki Sensei! He says, you bastard, and goes for it. Then Tamaru says, giant wind blast! He says, Sasuke jumps in front going, Katon! I'm pretty sure that means Phoenix. He goes, Phoenix Fire Jutsu! And that clashes, but then it doesn't work. Then Christian says, Chidori! Cutting right through it. He says, Then out of nowhere, it just starts to go lightning. He goes, Gummy Go Cyclops. He's just dancing in the rain. And then out of nowhere, a giant lightning bolt is about to hit the stage. He goes, nope! And charges up a Chidori, cutting a natural bolt of lightning. He goes, Christian says, how do you like that, Kakashi? Now I'm the lightning cutter. He goes, Kakashi says, my title has been stripped from me. I am no longer the lightning cutter. A child has just cut lightning. He goes, hey, I got rounds and then he rushes over and then front flips and goes, ah! And then makes in front of Gaara's team. They go, what are you doing here? He says, I'm doing what I want. I'll be back. Then he looks in a desk there. Then the music starts to play. Then he goes on all fours going, charging up his chakra going, clawing. Then he goes, and with one quick punch, knocks out Gaara. And that's it for now, because that's all I want to do. Plus my